Today we're going to sculpt Optimus Prime. Optimus! Thanks Shia, but not that Optimus. I was thinking more along the lines of this guy.
I'm driving for a layoff!
It's called a layup, Prime!
That's right, I'm talking about the original animated Generation 1 Optimus Prime, and when we're done, he's going to look like this.
My name is Optimus Prime.
It sure is, Optimus. It sure is. So maybe you're wondering, how do I even start something like that? Well, it all begins with step 1. Reference. Grab your nearest laptop or desktop or tank top and let's start carving up those internet slopes. You know what I mean. Google some images. Or you could do what I did and just go through a real existential crisis of exactly how you should tackle this project. Pick one image and then stop, and then pick another image and then stop, and then pick a third image and then hate yourself. The main problem I was having is Optimus Prime from the animated series is literally just like 3 cubes stacked on top of 2 rectangles. It's just not sexy. And at the outset of the project, I told myself one thing and one thing only. Peter, this robot better be sexy.
60 for the resonator, and my grandson wants the sex robot.
So finally, after 3 false starts, I settled on this guy. He had a certain hip-thrusting sex appeal that screamed, "Look at my junk." It's actually from a model kit by Flame Toys, so you build and assemble this thing yourself. When I started this video, I had no idea that these things actually existed, and now that I do, I think they're kind of cool. Step 2. Blocking out. This is the part where I'd usually take the reference image and then draw a bunch of shapes on top. However, because this is already a 3D model, there's really no reason to do that. If we were trying to recreate something like Michael Bay's Optimus Prime, then there'd be a good cause to break it down into primary, secondary, and tertiary detail, because it would really help you sort through the complexity. However, with this guy, I think we're pretty much set to just go straight into it. And by straight into it, I mean I forgot to turn on the recording software until about a quarter of the way through, so lucky you gets to miss all the start. Another little fun fact is that I also picked the worst viewport shader, so it's very hard to see what I'm doing some of the time. So if you ever find yourself wondering, what exactly is he up to? Just know that I've definitely grabbed a cube and I've beveled the edges. 99% of Optimus Prime is just a beveled cube. And that other 1%? Well, that's just a beveled cylinder. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is you can't see what's going on and half of it's missing. Enjoy. One final thing that I think I should add is this is all being made by polymodeling, which is different from sculpting, which is how the previous characters have been made. Polymodeling is akin to if you had to create a 3D puzzle out of nothing but squares, but then every now and then you could just cheat and use a triangle. Now, if you're someone with no experience in 3D, you might be thinking this is boring, why are you telling me? But if you're someone with a lot of experience in 3D, you're probably thinking this is boring, why are you telling me? The main point being, I think it's time for a fun fact. After the initial success of the animated cartoon, the creators decided to flesh out Optimus's backstory a little bit. Turns out he started his life as a simple robotic dock worker named Orion Pax. Pretty dumb name, but he had some of the juiciest lips known to robot kind. Megatron shows up and shoots Orion dead because, let's face it, he's kind of a dick. Orion's body is then taken to this old wizard-looking dude who rebuilds him into the Optimus Prime that we all know and love. The only downside being his lips are now forever covered. I assume this is more of a precautionary measure just so the other robots don't get too distracted. Moving on. If you've been following along with the time-lapse in the background, I want to first say congratulations because I set it to 5 times the speed of light. And secondly, you might have noticed that the reference image keeps changing, and that's because we're trying to create something that's already a 3D model. So the more reference we can gather, the more accurate our recreation will be. I personally found that a really good place to get it was YouTube, because a lot of people have already purchased these kit models and then built them all on camera, so you can just grab stills from those and it helps out immensely. Obviously, the more angles you get, the more accurate your model will be, but at the end of the day, a good front and side view will get you 90% of the way there. Now I know what you're thinking. Peter, stop telling us all this information. Get to a story. And I must say I tend to agree. I don't care, you don't care, Elon Musk used to have a lot less hair. Story time it is. So a big reason that Transformers was able to flourish the way that it did is because the toy line was produced in tandem with the cartoon series. This was made possible due to a spate of deregulation introduced by none other than Ronald Reagan.
I brought my Rappin' Ronnie Reagan tape.
Well.
You know something? He did say well a lot.
Previously, shows aimed towards children had been unable to promote products due to the concern it would compromise the integrity of the show. You know, like trying to stop programs becoming one long advertisement. But thank God we got all that deregulation, otherwise we may never have got a scene like this.
Your car? Huh? Sweetie, hand me my alien gun.
Feel like a Bud Light, kids? I know I do. I mean, kid me didn't really care about the fact that Transformers was just a half an hour advertisement to get me to buy Transformers. I bought the Transformers, and I loved them. Another interesting aside is if you remember back to the original theme song for Transformers, they were described as robots in disguise.
Transformers, robots in disguise.
But let's face it, their disguises were terrible and all over the place. Half of them were vehicles, some were just dinosaurs, Megatron was simply a gun, and who exactly are they disguising themselves from? They come from a world where they're all robots. And maybe your retort is, oh Peter, they actually came to Earth, so disguises are pretty good. Yeah, sure, that works for the vehicles, but it doesn't work for the large robotic dinosaurs. And I don't want to hear any crap that I'm overthinking a kid's TV show. Like you've never liked anything that doesn't matter. Kim Kardashian's show has billions of views and she doesn't transform into anything.
I may have gone too far in a few places.
What are we here for again? Oh, that's right, modeling Optimus Prime. So I've added the color just so I could get a better sense of the model because it's nearing the end. And now I'm just going in and starting to add the final few details. This piece here was actually created using ZBrush's Live Booleans feature, and then I just retopologized it at the end. It's the only piece that I created this way, and it was just because I was really unsure of how the final piece should look. So being able to play around with all of that on the fly was really helpful. And then onto posing. Don't be confused and think that any of this is rigged up or anything special like that. It's all just parented with each element under each other. So if I move the upper arm, then the rest of the arm moves along with it. It's pretty much the simplest way you can make something like this, and I'm all about that. And then finally, I did differ this model in a few key places from the original. Here you can see me adjusting the foot size to make it much bigger. I just felt it needed to be like a bit more menacing and imposing, so increasing that size and also shortening it gave me the look that I was after. I really wanted it to feel like if he stepped on you, you would essentially be crushed. Some other changes I made were to his waist. I feel like the original reference had a real anime influence to it, so I thickened that whole area up just to add a bit more bulk to him. And then the final change was to the head. I didn't reference the head on the kit model at all, I just went for something that I felt was much closer to the original animated series because I quite liked that head style. And then after I'd finished posing, I was left with a whole bunch of holes around the model, so now I'm just trying to create a bunch of unique different pieces that suggest that this is actually a toy that all connects together. And that's it, we're all done. If you hated this video, then maybe follow me on Instagram where it's all stills all the time. And secondly, if you have a suggestion of what I should sculpt next, then maybe write it below and I probably won't do it. But then again, maybe I will. I probably won't. Tune in next week where we attempt to find out who's stronger, me or an elephant.